La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast. You know what day it is? Inner Wealth Podcast with David Liz. So manifest the greater this. And things all good cause I say it is. Invest in your inner wealth. Real generational wealth is mental health. It's an inside game, no toxicity. Let's talk and more listening. Ladies and gentlemen, and now introducing David McCullough, Elizabeth Holstra, host of the Inner Wealth Podcast. Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast. Disclaimer. Information in this podcast and interview is not to be taken as medical advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any inner hacking program and before making any lifestyle changes. The material shared by guests in this podcast is not the opinion of David McCullough or Elizabeth Holstra and disclaims any responsibility of inaccurate credentials of guests or information used that may cause harm. No guarantee is given regarding the accuracy of any statement or opinions made on this podcast. This general information is not intended to replace your healthcare professional.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Inner Wealth Podcast. My name is Dave, and unfortunately, my co-host Liz is not with us, but we are again at Earn Your Leisure Studios, and I have a very special guest, Kika from Stretch Studios. What up, though, Kika?
How are you? I'm so happy to be here.
Man, me too. I'm like, hurry up and turn the mic on so we can get to talking, because you know how we go.
I know.
Man, so what is going on? What you sharing some big news with me? Tell us about the big news.
Well, I can tap into it a little bit. But
okay, tap into
this
it.
This year and next year is all about just expansion, strategic partnerships, and just getting Kika Stretch Studios in major neighborhoods across the country. So, just working on how to do that efficiently, strategically, just everything. So it's a great time.
So that's great. So you are, and from what my own research and looking up, I couldn't find too many Black-owned franchises. And when I mean that, I don't mean Black people who own McDonald's. No, I mean the Black people who are the McDonald's and franchise out. So are you familiar that you're one of the few?
Yes, I am. Very familiar.
Do you know how many people it is?
So now there's more. About a year ago, I started helping Black and brown entrepreneurs turn their businesses into franchises.
Okay.
So we have a mastermind group. We have about 15 in the group so far.
Oh, wow.
So it's definitely opening up a lot more. I think what was missing was the education on how to get there.
Yeah.
And the why and the how, and just trusting people. It's hard because if you don't know how to get into the industry, people can make it hard. So
talk about your company, Kika Stretch Studios, how you started it and the why.
Yeah, so I was a professional dancer. I worked in New York for years.
What type of dance?
Everything, modern, jazz, tap, ballet, hip hop. And I acted professionally, and it came to a point where I was like, I really want to do something else. And I was going to go back to school or start a business. So I used my training as a dancer. As an undergrad, I had to take all these anatomy courses that I was just fascinated with.
Okay.
I was fascinated with how the spine moved, how it could initiate movement, what that meant. And so I kind of took my dance training and the spinal movements that I learned and created a stretching method that I could use on myself. And then later that became the Kika method.
What year was that?
That was 2011.
That's when you started it?
Yes.
So you created your own method of stretching. Yes. It's like your own proprietary way of doing so.
Yes.
So a lot of these, because stretching just started really becoming popular probably from my own awareness, probably within the last 5 years. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, honestly, actually. So what happened was we got a New York Times article about our method and what we were doing. And at that time, that's when people started seeing it as a potential way,
Oh, so they was jocking off of you.
Yeah.
Oh.
So we were kind of the first people to play around with that idea. So that's when it really popped off.
Why do you think that became popular outside of, a lot of these massage therapy places that popped up? Like, why do you think that stretching became popular.
Yeah, I think, you know, when people do massage, when they do personal training, the best part is always the stretch. So I think when people saw, oh, this is a separate thing that I could actually like do, it just turned on a lot of light bulbs. Like, this is the best part of everything. So why not create a business out of it?
Yeah. I think personally, when I first saw a stretch place pop up in Michigan, I was like, they got a place for stretching? Like, this stretching? Because you got to understand, I've been in the wellness industry for probably since I was 17.
Yeah.
Business wise, since 2007, so going on 15 years. So when I saw stretching, I was like, just for stretching?
Yeah.
But then now I stretch. I get stretched. And just the other day, and man, I feel so much better after stretching, you know. And yoga had became very popular. But I don't want to do yoga.
See, I love yoga.
I want somebody else to stretch me.
People think I hate yoga. I love yoga.
I don't think,
it's different. It's completely different.
It is different. And that's why I say if you know Inception, you know, we use tools and technologies.
Yeah.
I want it done for me.
Yes.
And I want it done for me first, because once it's done for me in a nurturing way, all of a sudden I take over and now I nurture myself.
Right.
Because you're showing me things. And in the beginning, I may not be totally picking it up. But after 4 or 5, 6 sessions, like last night, I stretched myself. And now I'm going deeper into stretches and going into that pain body of that stretch and being okay with it by myself.
And that's when you reach a whole new level.
Now the self-care kicks in.
Exactly.
So I can go and still leverage the person.
Yeah.
But the self-care eventually kicks in.
Because there's only so far you can go by yourself. That's anything in life. You need help at some point. So that's what the practitioner, you know, helps with. But once you're able to get to those levels on your own, it's just like amazing.
So with your clients, do you find your clients doing the same thing where they kind of go home and start, I was doing this stretch myself?
People are always like, well, why do I need to stretch? I've been stretching myself. And I'm like, how many years have you been stretching yourself?
It's not the same.
The reason why you're still trying to do it is because it's not working. So it does work. You can stretch. I stretch myself obviously all the time, but there's only so far you're going to be able to get. And so that's why they come back, because they're like, all right, I need to get to the next level. They can maintain that level on their own. But in order to get to the next level, that's where the Kika stretching helps you.
With the stretchings, do you feel like it, is this breaking down scar tissue as well?
Yes.
Because some of the thought processes is that it just elongates the muscle, but does it also break down scar tissue?
It helps.
Or just, first of all, I'm not just stretching in general. You're stretching in particular.
Yes.
If you've looked at them.
So what we do is we follow the body's natural breath pattern. So as a dancer, you know, dancers are the most flexible people. Yeah. They know how to stretch. They use gravity as a tool to get them lower and further. And so we've replaced gravity with that stretch coach. And so the stretch coach is following their breath pattern. And as they release, you hear things pop, things shift. We've seen people with like balls of tension in their back that just go boop, literally flatten out. Wow. Because we're following their breath. So it does so much. It releases the tight muscles away from the bone, the fascia. It helps release it. It helps just shift the whole body. So there's much more that happens than just getting your head, you know, to the ground. And
that's probably where the education comes in at, and understanding that what is the real benefit of stretching? It's not just flexibility of the body, it's flexibility of the mind.
Mental clarity, priceless. We talked about the neck area before this, and when that gets tight, this is, as you know, the cervical area of your body is the highway to your whole body. So when it's tight, and when your neck is tight, your traps are tight, the blood is not flowing properly,
and your lymphatic system,
and your lymphatic system, and your brain cannot communicate messages directly to the rest of your body. It gets stuck. So when we stretch that neck area, people get a sense of euphoria, like, wow, and it's just blood flow.
Yeah. Wow.
It's like, this is how you're supposed to be living.
But when we don't have contrast and we stay stuck in these patterns for long periods of time, that just becomes the brain's new way of normalizing how life is supposed to be.
Exactly.
Like, I don't want to be the older person hunched over. It's like, at that point, when you're so hunched over, are you not aware that you're hunched over?
You're just miserable.
Yeah. And I don't want to live like that. You know, I need to go and to rectify it in some type of way or take some action. So how has stretching been for you personally, and like maybe even your family members?
You asked the good questions, man. Good questions. As far as like my own development as a person, right? Mm-hmm. So I've learned from a very early age that you should not store stress in your body, because it will kill you.
How old did you know that?
How old?
Yeah.
I would say when I was like 13, 14.
Okay.
I just tapped into like...
I don't want to say how old you are, but 13, 14, that's a young age to understand your body, because I didn't start understanding my body till 2007.
Because I was...
27?
Oh, wow. I was a swimmer. I was on the swim team. I played basketball, volleyball. I was a cheerleader. So I slowly started like tapping in like, oh, this is a whole nother entity. But I knew that you should not store stress in your body. And I started observing people who were like sick, stressed out, miserable. And they kept their stress in their body. So I was like, oh my God, stretching takes it all away. Like it literally strips your body of stress. And so stretching for me has been a way to release all of the energy that no longer serves me, and just like coming back to square one, like Hakika, the person without stress. So I've used it as a tool. My son is, I shouldn't say this, but he's very inflexible. He's only 11. So I'm teaching him like you have to like breathe, tap into your body. He's learning. So it really just helps you come back to who you are as a person without all the extra stuff. Yeah. So when we talk about mental health, you know, from our aspect, and it's always not just the psychological, and a lot of people get stuck at a system and thinking that's where it is. It's all in your head. No, it's all in your body. Yeah. Because where does it end up? Right. Exactly. You know, exactly. If stressor comes in and I'm like this, and that's what everyone does. It's in the body. It's up and they just stay like that for years. So people start looking like they're stressed. Yeah. And your body starts breaking down. So this whole idea the scientists are coming up with and understanding, oh, stress actually ages you biologically. It's like, really? Do we need to do scientific studies to know that the more you use something, the quicker it's going to break down? So places like yours is definitely necessary. And I would say probably during the pandemic, did you see an uptick in people coming in? Yeah, like once we opened our doors again, because we were closed for 3 months, it's been like just constant growth month to month, because people are finally getting it. Like what we do is we improve your quality of life. Yeah. And that's priceless. Yeah. And for us, we were closed 5 months. And when we reopened, we've been pretty much booked ongoingly because people didn't have the contrast now. Exactly. They didn't have that contrast. Now they see. Right. It took for a disaster to happen for you. And that typically, again, how most people get into the wellness world. We did a podcast with Dr. Perry. He talks about how he was impacted from, mentally, emotionally from, some type of issue that he had to go down a rabbit hole to try to fix. Same thing with me. Yeah. Same thing with my co-host Liz. Yeah. Like, this was the contrast gave us the understanding that this is not how I'm supposed to live. Exactly. To then I'll go do something about it. So with your family, like, let's say you talk about your parents and stuff like that. Do they come to your place? So my father passed when I was 8. Okay, sorry to hear that. My mom, she's worked in my business a while. She's now enjoying retirement. Okay. But I look at her and I'm like, look at your shoulders. Like, they're so tight. Oh, she doesn't want anyone to touch her, stretch it. Like, so sometimes people get stuck in their ways and that release is right around the corner, but they're just like so resistant to it. So I've had family members for years, and sorry to say, family, because we're exposing. Cause listen, for years, for free, Yeah.
For free.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna come. What?
Yeah. I'm gonna come see you.
Please,
Like you're doing me, like you're doing me a favor to come see me for you to take care of yourself. So that's secondary gain, right? People are stuck in a psychological loop of they get something a lot of times from being at the state that they're in, unfortunately.
And yeah, that's the question. What are they getting? I think about that all the time.
Well, a lot of them are getting attention.
Yeah.
A lot of them, they don't have enough space to let that loop go.
Yeah.
And we're talking about, everything we're talking about here is what? Space. What do you get in your body?
Creating space.
You're creating space.
Yeah.
All these spiritual texts talking about letting things go, or it's harder for a rich man to enter into heaven. It's easier for a camel to enter in or go through an eye of a needle.
Yes.
Why? Because these attachments to
There
stuff.
You go. Yep.
The attachments don't have what? Space.
Right.
So that's what you're doing at Kika Stretch Studios. Kika Stretch Studios creates space.
Yes.
You're gonna use that slogan, and trademark that.
Because then they'll be like, "What space?" Like
internal space.
No, I'm saying
inner space.
People don't get it. Yeah, right.
Inner space is
yeah. Did
inner
you
space.
You can create space in your body. What?
Yeah. When I go try to export movies, because I cut up all my stuff on my iPhone, in terms of videos I post on Instagram, and I try to export something, and it's like, hey, you can't export this because you don't have enough space.
Yep.
I can keep trying to export it, but nothing's going to come. So I have to go and make room for it. And that's what I found out through stretching, that and I've only been doing this probably within the last month.
Wow.
And I didn't do this because I knew I was coming to talk to you.
I'm going to stretch your neck when we're done with this. I have
Please. Please
yes,
do that.
For real.
I listen, when you said that, I was like,
it's like 5 seconds.
Go do it. Because once you show it to me, I'm sold. But I didn't do it because I'm always looking for next levels.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for the next thing that's I can integrate and to do self-care. Everything we do is about self-care at Inception.
Yeah.
We're trying to get people to move from healthcare to self-care. So just it's about space and taking care of yourself, emptying the cup. So then you can take in new things that actually be able to serve you.
Exactly.
So we need Kika Stretch Studios everywhere.
I'm saying we're offering franchises. Would you like to become a franchisee?
Who me? Well, I would.
Do you have enough space?
No, I don't. And I would become a franchisee if I wasn't creating my own franchise, right?
Yes.
And we talk about this all the time. I'm like, man, we need to look in certain cities and start putting them next to each other.
Yeah.
So people can have both ends. I don't think, in the wellness world, there's always been a conflict of whose tool is better
and whose tool don't you need. What tool can be replaced by another tool? Yeah. And that's the thing. It's a whole comprehension. Yeah, you need everything.
I don't look at the painter who's going to paint the wall like, man, what are you doing with that roller? Use the other tool. It's like, no, it's if it's effective, use the best tool. Yep. But at the same time, don't demonize another tool.
Right.
It's about what's efficient, what's effective, what's resourceful. Mm-hmm. So what is in your wellness journey, have you used other things?
Personally, yes, I've used everything.
Okay, tell me about some of those things.
I've always been kind of like claustrophobic within my own body.
Okay.
So when I feel pain, tension, stress, I have to get rid of it ASAP or else I know I won't feel good. So I've done lots of things, Reiki, massage, meditation. I've had like some crazy meditation sessions by myself where things have happened and I'm like, whoa, like this is real. Like just tapping in to all different types of levels. Stretching, of course. Working out is great and people love to work out, but it just jacks up your whole body. So I find myself in this place where I'm like, damn, like it hurts. And it really is not supposed to hurt. So finding balance there and just figuring out, like, at some point when I'm 90, I'm going to have to be like, I can't do anything. Like, I just want to have a tension-free body with no pain.
I think people, that whole gym model, like, oh, I de-stress at the gym. It's like, no, you really don't if you start to really look at, the amount of inflammation that you're creating and scar tissue that you're creating in your body. So no, you may be having a cathartic release because, you know, you're taxing yourself. So that release feels like what? Stress release.
Yeah.
No, it's a pseudo form, and it's overexhaustion a lot of times.
Yeah.
It's not saying that exercise is not beneficial and that it doesn't create stress relief, but within our culture and how we do things, you see more people damaged from the type of working out that they're doing than it is being helpful.
Yeah.
Even though you may see them with six pack and abs and all that, that don't mean that they're healthy at all. You know? Yeah,
because the definition of tone is a constant contraction in the muscle. So people are like, I'm toned, I'm fit, but your muscles are just contracted the entire time. When do they release? Usually never. So when we come to our studio, we're literally like tapping, like, let go. And then they just let go. And they're like, yeah, you can do that too.
Wow. Do you work with a lot of athletes?
We do, yeah.
Okay. What's their response like when they work with you?
They're tripping out too. Like we just got a really high level basketball player, and he's like, I've never felt anything like this in my life. And I'm like, can you say that on camera?
Wait, what?
Please?
Say that on camera, but then too.
Because
what?
Right, and it's so.
You work with.
Yes. How many athletic trainers? How many treatments do you get? And you've never felt. And so when I hear things like that, I'm like.
Same thing with us. People come in and walk out. I've never felt this relaxed in my life. Yeah. It's like, well, what have you been doing? Like, what do you live at? Like, what do you know, it's like. Because
it's not normal for people to feel.
But that's crazy. You got athletes who you would think. And this, so the misconception.
Yep.
They got money.
Yep.
They NBA, NFL. You should have the top guys. But what I found that, just because you got trainers don't mean that they know what the heck they're talking about, what they're doing.
Yes, there's a difference between learning from a textbook and just
application. Yeah. It's the difference between knowing the path and walking the path. Morpheus. Exactly. That's one of our Matrix episodes. We had Arnie Kander from the Pistons. He's a Pistons longtime trainer. I mean, we go back into the Bad Boys days.
Wow.
With Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, and those boys. Sound like Stephen A. Smith and those boys. And he came into Inception and he walked around and he saw everything. He said, man, everything you're doing is right.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when I talked to him, it's like he was telling us some of the methodology. You know, I had a conversation with him and a couple other guys, NBA guys was there. We were just talking about methodology within the new trainers. He's like, there's some of the things they have people doing from optics. Oh, that looks cool. He's like, oh, dribble the ball and pick up the cone. He said, in basketball, when do you ever dribble a ball and pick up a cone?
Okay, right? We stretched this an NFL team, right? And the head trainer was he didn't want us to stretch him. We finally stretched him. He was the tightest person one of the tightest people I've ever seen in my life. It's like you have all this knowledge, but you're not applying it to yourself.
What happened? You watching the NBA basketball? You an NBA guy person?
You know,
no?
I dibble and dabble.
I mean, you should see what's happening with all these injuries.
Yeah, that's what someone was just mentioning to me. Like, everyone's getting hurt.
Yeah.
Why?
Overusage. And then you can't overuse and then under recover.
Right. It's like you're not a robot. It's a physical flesh body.
Yeah. So I think, you know, starting to come into the age of self-awareness. And that's why places like yours and places like mine are starting to rise up, because it's about you taking care of yourself, not the medical industry. And I'm not anti-medical.
Yeah.
I'm anti-abuse of power. Yeah. I don't care what system it is. It's like one of the tenets is do no harm. Right? So the question is, are you really doing harm or not?
That's the question.
What do some people have in terms of, I know you don't diagnose and we don't either, and you don't treat anything, but what are some of the things that people came in that they had from a diagnosis standpoint that you saw greatly alleviated?
Man, I should have brought my file. We have a whole book of this. One of the main things is people were like, I'm about to have to get a hip replacement. or knee replacement. And this is my last stop before I have to do it because I'm just da-da-da-da. And so we're like, okay, we've seen that hundreds of times. Sometimes people do obviously need that. But for so many people, once we created space around their joints, around their bones, they were able to not have to get those replacements because there was now space and it was not bone on bone anymore. So we've literally
so then you can get the blood into the to the area and the nutrients
and
can now flow.
Starts healing and the bones are not touching each other anymore. There's no more grinding.
So that whole bone on bone thing.
Yeah, it's bone on bone because you
don't have any space.
There you go.
But a lot of it, you know, from the medical system is like, oh, you don't have any cartilage.
Right. No, it's there. You just have to lift your other bone off of it. Why are they not telling people this? Like,
it's there. It's just like a compressed pad.
Yes.
So it's there.
Even subluxation. I don't know if you know what that is.
From chiropractic standpoint.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna get blacklisted after this, but you know, chiropractors. That's like one of the main things they diagnose people with, and it's just like your spine is just compacted, and it's just gonna keep compacting. It's gonna get worse. You're gonna be hunched over, but stretching helps separate the vertebrae and lifts each one off of one another. So like I was diagnosed with it once, and I was like, oh, okay. So
with what?
Subluxation.
Okay. Because I work with chiropractor, Dr. Jake, and Dr. Jake's amazing. Yeah. It's just, but again, whole picture. You have some chiropractors where diagnose you with a subluxation. That's not
have to come twice a week.
No, that's not.
And I was like, oh, they say twice a week because that qualifies you for insurance if you go twice.
See, that's why I work with a doctor who doesn't even take insurance. Right. It's out of pocket payment, and he's looking at it from a mental, emotional standpoint, nutritional standpoint, and he will refer me. Yeah, you should probably go to this place. Yeah. To do stretching.
So look, I fixed my whole back in my living room.
Yeah, for free.
So we get a lot of that. People with spinal issues and sciatica, they take shots.
You hear all these buzzwords. I got sciatica. And like, people start talking about, where, show me where your sciatica at.
They're like, here. I'm like,
right. No. Yeah, show me where your sciatica. I don't know. People just learned that they got an immune system. Seriously, during the pandemic, people like, my immune system, like I need to boost it. Well, you don't really boost your immune system. Your system needs to become more resourceful and work more efficiently. Or I'm detoxing. You always detoxing. Your whole body is mainly detoxification system. You know,
I've heard family members like, I'm detoxing like over and over, and to them, detoxing is starting over, hitting their goals that they've never hit. And I'm like, do you realize you can make a decision to just stop BSing and get
they're detoxing?
I'm going on a detox. I'm like,
I'm going on a detox.
Fruits and vegetables so you can lose the 30 pounds that you've been trying to lose for 100 years, but it's deeper
instead of just fixing the root issue.
Yes.
Which is typically not the food you eat.
Nope.
Because somebody makes a decision about the food they eat.
Who is that person?
I don't know.
Right?
Well, who is
Once you find that person.
Right. Well, you need to find that person and figure it out. Right? It's like, oh, no, it's the food. Like, no.
And I'm just watching them popping muffins like, damn. You know, it's just when people get caught up in the cycle, they don't even, they're unaware of it.
It's amazing how much the programming has us caught in these loops where, again, we hear these buzzwords and we think that's it.
Yeah.
For instance, I was talking to Dr. Perry, who you just met, and, you know, we were talking about people who, like Dr. Sabi, all illness comes from mucus, or Linus Pauling. All disease comes from mineral deficiency. And you can keep going down the road of all these people who've discovered things that say all of something comes from this. All disease come from this. And the truth is, they're right on the level that they're looking at.
Right.
If you're on the third floor and that's when you look around and see where's the issue at, his issue is right here, but you never go into the basement. How can you say all the issues come from the third floor? You never went into the basement.
Yeah.
And with our bodies, there's levels to all of it.
So many levels.
So I don't want to look at it from a awe.
Yeah.
comes from this. Like all systems are working together.
Right.
So it's the mucus, it's the mineral deficiencies, it's the inflammation, it's the trauma. And there's a domino effect for sure. There's a cascading effect.
And you know what's crazy? Like everybody know, even people who aren't self-aware, they know when their body is about to be like, it's about to be a wrap if you don't change right now.
Yeah.
But they just don't listen. Like everyone hears that inner voice, but they're just like, I'm just going to keep doing it. And then you get issues.
And a part of that, you know, it's a slippery slope, because a part of that is push through the pain.
Right. I'll survive it.
Yeah. And sometimes I think that even with stretching, like for instance, last night I stretched and I just noticed something as I was stretching. I was like, man, like I really have an ability with my consciousness right now to be just the observer of the stretch.
Yes.
Versus being attached to the stretch.
Yes.
Like it's hurting.
There's a separation.
Stop.
Yep.
And I just noticed that during the pandemic, I got this level of space. And it's not just with stretching, it's just with stimulus in general, stress. It's like, no, man, I want to remain open. I don't want to shut down and be locked in protection.
Yeah.
So that gave me last night the ability to stretch and be able to be detached and keep going and feeling the pain, but being okay, but not forcing it. Just being aware of it.
Yes. And
so it's a fine line, right?
Line. And so with our stretching, it's based on passive stretching, which means it keeps going. So there's other stretching.
Okay, so break that down.
Yeah. There's other stretching studios that open. They want to monetize off of stretching, but they don't really know the science of it, right? How do I know the science? I started as a dancer. We were taught these concepts, how to let go, how to get further. And so by using passive stretching, so you've heard of active isolated stretching, dynamic stretching. Yeah. So those things, it's a way to stretch the body without having the defense mechanism set in.
Activate. Okay.
So, right. So you trick the body so it doesn't set in. But what happens is people don't get used to that stress, which is the stretching, which also is stress in life, stress at home. They don't get used to feeling it. You avoid it.
Yeah.
So you never learn how to deal with it.
You just suppress it.
So with our stretching, we passively take you following your breath pattern. We take you where you're about to like give up and say, I can't go anymore. But then as you breathe, we go a little bit further. So we actually let the body's defense mechanism set in. And what happens is people just deal with life better because they know what it feels like. They've overcome it.
Because it's an adaptation of the nervous system at that point. Right.
So our clients are much different than any other company's clients because they walk out knowing what that feels like.
Why you tell me that? Because now I can't go to a stretch place there in Michigan.
No, I want you to now. I want you to.
Okay, yeah. So, but see, I gotta have a contrast. I gotta come to you, and then I gotta go to them and be able to say, okay, what's the difference? So, what is it? So, is it a dynamic stretch when they're stretching and you're at that point where you're like, I can't go no more, and they take the muscle and they move it.
Yeah.
And then they go back.
Fast.
Is that a dynamic stretch?
Fast and frequent movements. Yeah.
Okay.
Without extending.
Kind of like the like if you're on your back and you're moving the hip. Like
or like lunging forward and stepping back, lunging forward. And so that's the stretching you're supposed to do before you do like a physical activity to get your body warmed up. But
there's a lot of controversy now around that.
They say don't stretch.
Yeah.
They're talking about why you shouldn't stretch passively before an activity, but they never tell you that you should do it after your activity. They say don't stretch before.
So do you believe I'm now saying believe. So you don't stretch before working out.
Do passive stretching before.
So you can do break down passive
so like
again.
When you go like this, passive is like when you're allowing the body to keep moving in a slow pattern to your limit. Okay. So when you do that, it's for recovery. So your body slows down. Okay. Passive stretching slows your body down. So that's why you don't do it before a physical activity. But after an activity, you have to slow your body down so it can heal and recover. So they say don't stretch. But they don't mention what you're supposed to do after the activity. So that's, there was all these articles. Don't stretch.
So you said no passive, but what about dynamic? Dynamic before. Yeah, so you have to be very specific about, why aren't they not being specific about the type of stretch?
They don't know what they're talking about.
Just saying, just don't stretch. Well, that's a very broad statement. What does that mean?
It's like, oh, don't stretch. It's
catchy, not the data on the science,
it's not
though.
The fact, yeah, no. Yeah. So we had to explain that to our clients, like
especially with
stretch.
Athletes.
Yeah, they said don't stretch. I'm like, no, they said don't stretch before. So we had to break it down.
And don't do passive stretching.
Yes, until after. Passive is for recovery.
Right. So the dynamic movement is warming the muscle up.
Yes, for the activity you're about to do. Exactly. So if you're running, then you would do some lunges, to get the blood flowing in those areas. And you're supposed to. That's what you're supposed to do. But
so do you think a lot of these injuries, though, is because people the body is so compacted, and then when they go do something, I tore my Achilles, first of all, when I was playing basketball. And I don't know if I would have tore it if I stretched.
Probably wouldn't have.
Probably not. Right. And the shock absorbing shoe I had probably didn't have enough absorption. So by the time I landed, that's where that explosion took place, because I didn't have enough what?
Space.
It's so common sense,
we should
right?
have a chalkboard.
Right.
Like
yeah. No, I have one at home. I write on the space.
No, that's totally probably why. Because exactly. So when people are stretching on their own, some people are like, I injured myself stretching. I'm like, what?
You injured yourself stretching?
So many times. Okay. Because like you said, they just like go from point A to Z times 1,000 because they don't have body awareness.
Right.
Like, I can't understand it, but they literally don't have that voice that says stop. Or they hear it and they don't listen. They just keep going.
I think some people are in freeze. You ever hear me talk about freeze?
No.
Being in a fight flight response, then freeze response, when your body actually creates opiates and numbs you out. So when you're in freeze, some people can become, I don't want to say addicted to, but because that stretch, they feel something, but not enough. Yeah. Like some people don't know when they're full. Yeah. So they keep eating. Yeah. It's kind of the similar type of thing. So what about, and that can create hypermobility. Mm-hmm. So what do you think about hypermobility?
So we have, I've seen it across the years, but those people still have tension. So I always tell people there's a difference between flexibility and tension. Tension is actually stress that you've held within your body for years. Okay. So even the most flexible, hyper flexible people, they still have lumps and bumps in their neck, their back. So
wait. There's a difference between the stress in the body and the tension in the body versus the flexibility of the muscle.
Yes.
There are two different things, right? So you can have tension in the body, but a flexible muscle.
Yes. So
that's a huge statement.
And so when people are like, oh, I'm flexible, I don't need to be stretched. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. What's your home life like? I have 17 kids. I want to cry every day. I'm like, oh, because your shoulder right here is like, it's all, and it's usually one major body part that holds most of the tension. So when people get stretched at our studios, the coaches are trained to find that body part and then tap into there. And then by the time they walk out, they feel a difference because we worked on that place.
So the method we do is trauma release exercises. I'm not sure if you've ever seen that. It's like, I've worked with people who are in the yoga community, and it's like, just because you can do a yoga pose or that you're very flexible doesn't mean that your body doesn't hold those issues in the tissue still.
Exactly. Like flexibility means nothing to me. We barely talk about it because that's not what we're trying to target.
That's a huge statement.
Yeah.
And that's where the education comes in at, because the average person would just think flexible.
Right.
But really, stress release, emotion release. So as we talk about emotion release, let's talk about the emotions that you see come up from your journey working at the facility. Like what type of people walking out crying, things of that nature?
So there's one specific stretch where we put the ball behind the person's back, like an exercise ball, and their hands are behind their head and they arch back. And in that position, the heart
opens up.
Guarded area of the person's body. So when we open it up, we've had, I can't even count how many people have just started crying. Men, women, whatever you identify with, all types of people just crying because they've never felt like that. Also, what people tell us is like, no, when are people touched, you know?
Yeah.
Like if you're in a relationship, if it's intimate, if you're whatever, but most
why you
people are not.
Why you think the dogs and cat or dog pets are so huge? Because that's the only time.
It's my son's cat. First of all,
I'm not really a cat person, but dogs is man's best friend.
Why don't you like cats?
They sneaky, man. Cats are sneaky. Cats don't need you. Cats will kill you.
Oh, wow.
Like cats don't need you.
They don't. Well,
you can leave town for a week and that cat gonna be good. That dog is a whole different story.
I had to hire a cat sitter the last time.
Well, you got a bougie cat.
No.
Your cat needed a cat sitter.
Pay extra for a whole half hour. I was like,
what? You need a litter box and some food. Like that cat for a week could be chilling. The dog be like, what? Freaking out. Separation anxiety. That cat like, damn, you came back.
That's so funny.
But that's why people like their pets though, is because of the touch thing. Mm-hmm. Have you been seeing what's happening in Japan?
What's happening in Japan?
Oh man, people are like, it's I can't remember the term. There's a specific term in Japan that's happening, but really there's no interaction with men and women anymore as much as it used to. People isolated. They have touching facilities like touching franchises. Like,
so I need to open a touching,
just touch, like
touching
just getting hugged. A hug could cost you like so much money. You know, like yeah. Laying on a person's lap will cost you so much money.
I've seen that. I have seen that. People get paid to hug.
You gotta understand, like social media.
That's so sad.
And Japan is far ahead of us technologically. Mm-hmm. And that's created a lot of isolation. A lot of people are killing themselves. Yeah. And a lot of people are dying alone.
A lot of young people in this country are killing themselves. You know, social media is their life.
Yeah. Well, you know, again, that creates the separation too. And not only the touch facilities, I don't know, the cuddle places or something like that, right?
That's the name of my franchise.
Cuddles?
No.
Oh, yeah. That's your new one.
Cuddles for free.
Cuddle Studios. Kika's Cuddle Studios. So, but also dates. Mm-hmm. They're paying people. Now, you know, people here escorts and stuff like that, but this is just to have a boyfriend or girlfriend. Like, like there is
like a play girl.
Like, I'll pay you $200 to come take a walk with me. Wow. Not to go to any specific events. Just to go on a walk. Just to hold my hand. Just to this is where we're going. So I can see why the stretching that is a huge component of it. It's just being touched and nurtured, right? I
had a woman, she was like, I'm an atheist. In her stretching, she'd be like, oh my God. I'm like, do you realize you said God? She's like,
no, not your God. My non-God.
Right. No,
my non-God.
No, but she called herself like, oh, yeah, because, you know, whatever. But she was celibate for, I think it was like 30 years. It was wild, right? Wow. And so she used to always talk about it. Ooh. Like she had friends and whatever. So one day she came in the studio, happened to be there. She was like, Kika, guess what? I'm like, what? She's like, I did it. I'm like, what did you do? What'd you do? And then I was like, oh, I knew what she was talking about. She said, it was because of my stretching sessions.
So that opened her up
to feel comfortable within her own body so that she could have that experience. Tons of stuff like that. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, if you have a baby and you don't touch that baby's going to die from lack of love. Yeah. You know, even eye contact and cooing and things of that nature. So like those components, I think, you know, with your company is like, to be able to start to highlight those things, you know, if you don't, you know, because it's so important. You are the touch facility, you know.
We'll hug you for free. Just buy
You better give me a tip.
Hugs for free. Yeah.
Hug at the end.
I'll
plus
start
stretching.
Putting that in now before it hits, you know,
it's coming.
heavily in this country.
It's coming.
Yeah.
You know,
we were the first to offer free hugs.
Yeah. So
you're a genius.
I done gave you a couple things to this episode. I'm gonna see all the trademarking going on. I'm like, did I come up with that?
Yeah.
You know, people understanding the difference. I mean, you probably train them on that, the difference between dynamic and passive stretching, right?
Yeah, because they try to help us. They try to like force themselves through, and we're like, just chill, like stop. But
a lot of people won't even make the connection between emotional release work and stretching.
They don't know what that is. They barely they don't know what stretching is. We're still,
like I said, we just learned what our immune system is.
Right. We're still like, this is why you need to stretch. Like,
yeah.
So it's just,
or this is why you need to breathe, like I just did. Take a breath. People don't know.
Yeah. People hold their breath. We're like, breathe. They're like, I'm like, do you know why?
All right, Bane, calm down. Like, why are you sounding like Bane? Like the way you're breathing right now.
Do you know why you're holding your breath? Is there any reason? Do you
or your shoulders. Like during this whole podcast and the other, I'm just dropping my shoulders because I can feel it. Yep. You know, one time I drove from Michigan to Ohio. It took me about 3 hours. When I got there, I had a headache. And I was like, why do I have a headache right now? Mm-hmm. It was because my arm holding like this.
Just like this.
And so everything just got, my lymph and everything was just congested there.
But people don't realize that you can drop your shoulder. Like you see that one movement, they're like, oh.
Yeah. I'm
like, you only need your shoulders to shrug.
We're very unaware of our bodies and ourselves.
Absolutely.
You know, that's what we call the podcast Inner Wealth. Because once you start learning these things, like, you can really start to live your life in a more resourceful and have happier moments.
Yeah.
Oh, sleep. So let's talk about that. Yeah. So let's talk about that. Sleep and stretching. Because last night I stretched, I've passed right out. So let's talk about that. And
so it's funny. I just had a client who was like, I was wearing my Fitbit and it works. I slept longer at night. Yeah. I'm like, yeah. Because I didn't realize people slept in positions, like active positions where they were like holding their body. And for me, I'm like, how could you fall asleep like that? Like when I fall asleep, I have to be completely limp. I can't hold any type of tension or else I'll be uncomfortable. But people like get into a position and hold themselves there. So their muscles are contracted the whole time until they fall into a deep.
Do you recommend any certain type of sleep patterns? Have you found out what's some sleep hacks in terms of posture and things of that nature?
Yeah, just breathing. Like when you're in bed, just take a few deep breaths and let the bed hold you up. And then people are like, oh, because they're literally holding themselves up in their own bed. It's like, why are you still guarding yourself at night? Well, we know why.
We know why. The brain's like, we're not safe. And I find that to be one of the biggest travesties of life is that, you know, you're not safe in a place where you should feel the most safest, which is where? Your bed. Think about it. That's where somebody can come and kill you. And in that place, in order for you to fall asleep and know you're going to wake up non-harmed, that means it has to be a safe place for you.
Yeah.
And if you go home and it's quiet, there's nothing around you, your doors are locked, there's no crime outside, and you still can't sleep, you're tormented within your body.
Your own thoughts, Like sometimes, like, you know, running a business, multiple businesses, entrepreneur, like I literally have to talk to myself, like, stop thinking, like, stop thinking, like just and then I fall asleep. You have to shut your own brain off. People don't know how to do that.
And it's a whole industry selling mattresses and make people think it's the mattresses.
What do they say the mattress does?
No, I'm just saying, just mattresses in general. It's the mattress why you're having a hard time sleeping. You need a firmer mattress. You need a softer mattress. You need this mattress.
And I'm like, what?
You can have a $5,000 mattress. I have people all the time that have, you know, mattresses that cost a lot of money, you know. And
you need to develop a mattress that shuts your brain off.
Well, ground. It does.
Oh, there you go.
Once you ground, we have grounding mats that we put on for your bed, and you're now connected to the earth. Your nervous system is going to regulate, autonomic nervous system. You're going to you're going to drop out of more fight or flight into more parasympathetic, all from grounding.
Yeah, there you go.
But it's not the mattress. It's touching the earth. It's just the technology we're using to helping you touch the earth.
Right.
You know, it's when you start looking at health, and you probably see it from the world that we're in, it's simple things.
Simple things. That's why people are like, how could you build an empire off of stretching? Because we teach people how to breathe and be happy. Like, how?
Yeah, same thing for us. The whole business is about de-stressing and pouring out the cup.
Yeah.
And then, I feel so much better.
Yeah.
It's like, why? Because you poured out the cup. Because the opposite, the establishment, and not everybody in the establishment is teaching these very complicated. You think it's very complicated from the medical standpoint. He's a doctor. He spent this amount of time in school. But have you had the doctors come to you and they're blown away?
Oh, man. The doctors. They're blown away. They're in the worst shape. They're the ones that struggle the most with letting go.
Yeah. Why? A couple reasons. Let's talk into that. Couple reasons. And me and Dr. Perry had this conversation today too as well. Moral injury is one. You know what moral injury is?
I can kind of put two and two together.
Because your patient comes to you and says, I got X, Y, and Z. They know other ways to relieve those issues outside of what's in the system, but they can't tell you that. And they have to cover their ass in many different ways, because of it. So moral injury, doing the opposite of what you kind of know to be the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And then two, based on if you see people on a daily basis who are sick, compassion fatigue, you internalizing everything that these people are having going on.
Yeah.
And, vicarious trauma. If somebody comes in an ER unit and you get their guts hanging out of you, your brain is going to go into fight or flight, freeze response.
Yeah.
Your guts are hanging out you. And people say, oh, I got used to it. No, you didn't used to it. You just got numb to it. Your brain has thrown you into, I see most of them are in freeze response.
Yeah.
And I've had relationships and known people who were in that medical world, doctors, OD'd on heroin, bad condition. Wow. So that's what they say. By the time they come to you, they come to me, they're in bad shape.
Yeah, it's like they always say, this is my last chance.
This is my last chance?
My last resort.
From the medical system?
Especially from them, but everyone, like, I'm injured. This is the last place I want to try before I have to get surgery. And then they just don't go to surgery. Like, but we can't, can't say that. Yeah,
I've had people come for years and they were like, I'm about to go do surgery. And I'm like, you should just wait and do some other things, make some other adjustments. And you can probably not do that, but, hip replacement, that's a very common thing.
Yeah, it is.
Knees. And it's all, what'd you say? Where's it from?
Lack of space.
Lack of space. Compacted muscles.
Yeah. No space being created.
So talk about it from the business standpoint, like you doing business and that journey. How's that been for you?
It's been interesting.
Especially as a woman.
Yeah. And
then as a black woman, and a black woman in a space that they don't look like us. I know, I'm in this space with you.
Yeah, you are.
And we're very... What is 5 of us maybe?
Is there 5?
I mean, yeah. And in terms of 2 going to create franchises and major models.
Yeah.
Not many.
Oh, it's crazy because like my family, so I'm Seminole, Cherokee, Blackfoot, African American, all these things. So like growing up, there's healers in my family and they taught us things. And no wonder you
understood stress at it. It's in your DNA like that.
In my DNA.
Right?
So so growing up like that, I always knew like I was a healer of some sort, like I could heal. And so at this point, it's funny because when you bring business and wellness together, it's very tricky because you don't want to forsake the wellness for the business and then the business. So it's been just constantly having to prove myself every time I get to another level. Then more people believe into the whole, you know how it is, the whole thing. People are just now like, oh, what are you doing? I'm like, I've been doing this for 10 years. Now like, so it hasn't been easy at all. I've learned a lot of things the hard way. I've started with nothing.
This is not a hamburger joint. Sometimes we had this conversation before. I wish I sold cupcakes at times. It's so easy.
Yeah.
It tastes good or don't taste good.
Right.
With us, we got to teach you about yourself. We got to teach you why you in a bad shape. We got to teach you how to get out of bad shape.
Yeah.
It's emotional upheaval.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a linear process at all.
Right.
Even with the stretching, that may seem linear because I stretch further now, but what's being broken down is not a linear process.
Yeah.
You know,
and like having employees and teaching them. That's the hardest part, right? Like if you're a natural healer, but teaching others how to heal everyone's a healer, some more than others, but how do you teach someone else to heal when they're unaware that they're a healer? So it's like this learning curve with employees and teaching them how to help others when they don't even know how to help themselves.
How do you go about it in terms of like people who are becoming franchisees with you, in terms of like, do you look for people more who are making sure that they do their own work? Are they already in the space, or how does that work?
Yeah, no, I mean the stretching space.
Yeah, I mean no, not in the stretching space, but just in the holistic space or alternative. They may be a massage therapist or something like that.
Crazy. We've gotten so many lawyers who have become franchisees.
Really?
Lawyers. Like to the point where we're like, let's just do a whole campaign
for lawyers.
Targeting lawyers. And it's because they're missing that part of their life where it's just like stress free and like healing themselves. It's crazy. I don't even know why I brought that up, but there was a point to it. Who do people come to you? From the business side, we look for owners who have some capacity in the business world, right? So, but who they hire, they have to be in the wellness world. Okay. So you can own a facility and have healers.
Okay, so then they're not the ones necessarily doing it.
If they are, then they would have to have that type of background. But they don't, so. I
wonder if they passing off the moral injury and finding that to be able to fill that gap for themselves.
I think so.
You know?
I think so.
Because being a lawyer, and, you know, I've talked to my mom about this before. She said at one point she thought about it because she worked in, you know, legal at a major company. It's like, you're constantly in a battle. You're constantly fighting somebody.
Yeah.
Why do you want to do that?
I don't know. And then when you look, because I have all different types of lawyers, right? For different things. Yeah. And when they're like, oh, I just paid off my bill for my schooling. I'm like, after how many years? Like, why did you choose this path, right? I don't know. But a lot of the lawyers that we have are like, they're very resistant in the beginning, but then
what are they resistant to?
To the whole like allowing someone to have the control over their body and stretch them. Oh yeah. But once they give into that and release, the best clients, we have to kick them out. They love it. They love that feeling, because where else do you get that? Where someone actually helps you release your tension. Right.
So the lawyers are coming in, they're owning the franchises, and so, but they don't never go through the process of how to work on people?
They do. They have to go through the training process as if they were going to stretch. Okay. But then they don't stretch in the end. Because
they're hiring people to do so.
Yeah, and a lot of them want to work outside of the business. They want something that doesn't involve...
They're just passive.
Yeah, exactly.
That's probably your best franchisee, right?
So we have... No, honestly, our best franchisees are like...
The ones who are working in it.
They're not working in it, but it's crazy because you can be passive, but still log in and check the stats of your business more than one.
Some people don't even want to just.
Some people don't.
They just don't want to.
They're just look at it at the end of the month, like
it's just a money transfer. Then
for some people, but we try hard not to find people,
because I find that to be kind of hard in this space, to be able to do that. But
and many of our...
But you got to have good managers in place.
Many of our franchisees have been clients, so they get it.
So where do they get their managers from?
Where everybody else tries to get them from. But it's really just scouting and finding the right people, which is hard, of course, for any industry, but spending a lot of time doing that.
A lot of the practitioners who come in, who learn the method, you said they're in the alternative world, like
yes. Massage. We have a lot of people in school for physical therapy, all types of things.
So is there some basic stretches that can help people? that you can tell people?
Yes.
Is it something that they visually need to see, or is it something you can just...
Okay. One, like you said, like when you're sitting in the chair, usually your shoulders are like up like this for no reason. So if you bring your shoulders up by your ears, right? This feels horrible, right?
Yeah, it feels horrible.
And then like
it looks horrible.
Pull it all the way down. Don't drop it, but pull it. You'll start to feel a stretch in your traps.
Yeah.
And then do it again. So this makes you aware that, oh, I'm raising up my shoulders, right? Yeah. And then do it again, all the way up as high as you can, and then drop it down, and then now release, go back to neutral, and you'll feel, oh, there's a little bit of space.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Absolutely. That feels a lot better.
Yeah.
So on the top portion, are you engaging the muscle? Are you contracting the muscle when you go up top, or you're just pulling it?
So because
you can squeeze.
You're doing both.
Okay, so you can go up and squeeze.
Go up and squeeze and then let it all go. And that teaches people how to I can actually let go of a muscle. Yeah. You can actually visualize a muscle and say let go, and it'll let go.
Are you into any CBD type products?
Yes.
Or edible type products? Is it legal here now?
We sell CBD, but Delta 8 just became legal here, so I have a shipment.
Because let me tell you,
it's a whole other.
Let me tell you, when I'm taking some RSO, which is RSO, Rick Simpson oil. Rick Simpson actually cured himself from cancer by taking highly concentrated doses of cannabis, and so I take like 1 drop of RSO, and
it has THC in it. Okay.
Yeah, and I stretch.
And you're just on a
whole nother level.
Yeah.
Like it feels amazing. I think that as marijuana starts to become more popular, like wellness places need to start to show people how to use it in a better way.
Yes.
Versus I just want to be high.
Exactly.
Like, no, but to do what?
Right. There.
Right. Just be stuck in the couch. And that has its thing too, but...
Stop before you get there, right?
But, I mean, being able to... Because I find that I have a high level of body awareness. Like, oh man, I'm holding so much tension. That's when I go into my body and find all the places I'm holding tension.
And sometimes just laying on the floor and just letting the floor hold you up and just feeling like, oh, I'm being held up by the floor, and just let go of everything. You're like, wow. Yeah. Just laying on the floor feels so good if you do it the right way.
So are you coming out with your own line of like CBD products, you think, ever?
At some point, but we have like a really good connect in California, and our clients are like, they love it. So.
And one last question for you too, because I noticed this is a difference at your place versus other stretch places, is that you have people lay on the floor with a mat, almost kind of like Thai massage style. So what's that thought process behind that?
Yeah, so it's following the dancer's approach to stretching. So dancers don't stretch on tables for a reason, because you can't stretch on a table.
You can't stretch on a table?
You can't stretch effectively on a table. In order for your body to truly let go, your spine has to be neutral and your arms have to be kind of extended out on the ground. Yeah. You can't do that on a table because your arms are hanging off the table. So we do everything on the ground so that your body can just let go and the ground's holding you up while we're performing the stretching. So it's a completely different experience. And
yeah, because all the stretch places that I see,
all of them use tables.
What do you think about the table, the ones where they use a table and they have the strap that holds your leg down, and then is that necessary?
It's not necessary. There's nothing that replaces hands, right? Healing hands, and the straps just cause the body to tense up because you're afraid to get hurt.
Yeah, because that does feel like, yo, you strapping me on this table.
How can you be relaxed while strapped to a table?
That's true.
You can't.
All we talking about again in wellness, and this is the thing, the big key, and people don't understand, is safety. If the vessel, the body, doesn't feel safe, I don't care what it is, you're going to have an issue. And we have people who sometimes, they're going to go into flotation therapy, and they're scared and they opt out. And it's like, okay, go do this. We have something else for you to do. Because if you're afraid, what's it going to do?
Right.
Create more issues.
Yeah.
So really it's about safety and it's about space.
Yes.
And that's what you're offering at Kika Stretch Studios, is a safe space.
Yeah.
To gain what? Space.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Till next time.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks, Kika.
La la la.
You've been listening to the Inner Wealth Podcast on EYL with David and Elizabeth. Theme song produced by Be Ready for West Coast Creations. I am Raz Cass, reminding you to take action, be proactive, be congruent, get out of the matrix, get your mind right. We've automated mental health at inception. Join the movement.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.